Hey, welcome to Kingdom Lifestyle. So, today we are going to talk about hearing God in the little things and being obedient to the words He gave you in 2023.
Sure.
Take it away, babe. Just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to. I'm just putting you on the spot.
No, that's fine. I don't mind. Okay, so hearing God in the little things. The
Tell
way of.
Now I'm gonna get blasted. Krista, stop talking over him. Let him. And then she yells, "Let him speak."
Yes.
No. So, go ahead.
The way I've always grown up with it, it was basically saying if you're basically if you can't hear the whisper, it means you're too dense. If God has to yell, it's a you problem. It's not a God problem, and it's not something that's saying that God doesn't speak loudly and audibly and all of these other things. But a lot of the times, the closer you get to God, sometimes the quieter that voice feels, and the silence doesn't bother you as much. Because there's going to be seasons where you're not having all these confirmations one after the other. That might be the season that God's brought you into, but when God's speaking, sometimes these small voices and learning how to listen to those is the harder ones. But if you're able to discern the small voice, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
If God's having to yell at you in order to get you to stop doing what you're doing, it's probably not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But the closer you get, the quieter He gets. And if it's something that you require an audible, this is a definite now word for me in this moment, in this season, sometimes God gives those just because He loves you and just because He wants to. But if it's something that's the only form that He can communicate with you, I think you need to kind of check what your surroundings are. In medicine and in communications, it's called a signal to noise. How well can you discern the signal amidst all of the background noise? How well can you hear me if the background noise is blowing raspberries? But that kind of shows what we're talking about. When noise is happening around us,
She's so prophetic. It's our prophetic
really
baby.
sealing it in. How quiet can that signal get, and you can still discern it amidst all of the noise that's happening around you? If it's something that you can do, that means you're on the right path. But the closer you are, it means that the louder everything else is happening around you, it means the quieter that God can speak, and you can still hear Him in the moments.
So I love that, and it's very true. So I want to share with you guys about our love orchid. So we have a love orchid. He got it for me on one of our anniversaries. In the moment, it was not well received.
She did not like that.
I needed some deliverance in an area. Got it. We're good now.
Okay,
but now,
this wasn't a yearly anniversary either.
This
was every 44 days. There was some kind of gift being given, and it was just something that was special for us. But this wasn't like a 1 year. I didn't give a 1 year anniversary. It's just an orchid.
It was so sweet though. But that orchid has ended up. It means so much to me. It's very special. Most people can't get their orchids to bloom. I have cracked the code. So now I've always loved orchids, but now I love having them because I love to watch them bloom. And they bloom for a long time once they do. And so we have this love orchid, and this orchid blooms and dies. The blossoms die when our seasons change. And so what is so interesting is I think it was August whenever it first bloomed, and we had just hit a new season. It was like July or August, and we knew a new season was beginning, and we in that moment desperately needed a new season. So this stuff was very important to us. I mean, we were seeking God, we were doing all the things we could do, and so when we saw that, And then so fours, right? So fours are really important to me and now to him.
Yeah.
But God has always spoken to me through fours, and well, not always, but for the last few years. And it's open door. And I'm sure for some people have asked me, what do all these numbers mean? And the thing is, when God shows me numbers, it's gonna mean different for me than what it does for you. So I don't really comment on it because that's how God just speaks to me on a personal level. It is our personal relationship. So I don't, we know prophetically what a lot of the numbers mean, but whenever he shows me something, he's speaking to my heart about something that's important to me. And so I don't think that everybody's, yeah, we know it means open door, but does God mean it something different for me? And does he go deeper with me? Yeah, he does. So it's going to be different for everyone. But so what was interesting about this orchid whenever it bloomed is it bloomed 4 blooms. So it had 4 flowers on it. And this thing stayed bloomed and beautiful until, I'm sorry, actually the first time it bloomed, it was 2. And then there came 2 more. So it ended up being 4, and it was for all these months. And then yesterday, I plucked them off because they had died. Yeah. And so it was, no, I'm sorry, it was on New Year's Eve that their little stems get yellow, and so it's time to pluck them off. And so now she's bare. But I had this feeling, even whenever I woke up on New Year's Eve, like just this good feeling, like this peace in my spirit of just knowing like we are coming into a new season and it's really good. And so when I saw those fall off, I wasn't discouraged. I thought, wow, it's a new season.
Yeah. The part on the orchid is that every time there would be a change or a shift in our life, the orchid would bloom on the same day. There'd be like a brand new shoot where it would pop out, and it's literally as soon as the thing would actually open up, it would actually be on the same exact day that we would have a transformation where things would either come into our life that were good or things that would leave our life that were bad. And so it was something that it's been kind of quite a signal here now for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
That it has been kind of a way that we've allowed God basically speak to us through something simple.
And we get some comments sometimes about, most everybody totally understands what we're talking about, and we appreciate that. But then there's some people who don't, and they may take that statement and literally turn it into us like worshiping some creation or whatever. And it comes down to the whole point of this video is hearing God in the little things. Can you hear the whisper? And God can use an orchid to speak to you, and it's like, can you hear it? Yeah. And that's the meaning of that is, okay, can you literally discern the times and the seasons on what God is saying through a plant that lives in your house? If you are listening, you can. And it's amazing because you don't need these huge confirmations. There are times and seasons for that. And when those things happen, that is fun.
Yeah.
That's a good time. I love it when those things happen. But that's not the daily thing. And you don't ever know when that stuff's going to happen. And so whenever you can be quiet enough in your home or in your life, in your spirit, in your mind, to hear him in all of the little things, that is when you really get that breakthrough. When you can get that, when it, like he was saying, it doesn't have to be loud. I remember when I was outside of the will of God, I wasn't walking with him at all, and he was really pursuing me. He had to speak to me audibly. So if you guys go back to some of my previous videos, the one where I attempted suicide, he had to speak to me audibly to get me to call 911. Because he knew that if he whispered to me, if he gave me some sign, what he could do to me now, I wouldn't have got it. I wouldn't have understood it. I wouldn't have heard him. And so he had to speak to me audibly to get through to me. And, after that, the next time he spoke to me, it was audible. It was an audible voice. And he had to do that because I wasn't walking with him. I wasn't I wasn't able to hear him, and he knew it, and he had something he wanted to say to me. And so that is a really good test of where you're at spiritually, whether he has to speak to you audibly. It's not to say he can't once you are with him. That would be incredible. If I heard his voice right now, I'd be so excited. But I know that now it's always more of a very still, small voice. It is very quiet, and you have to be able to know him well enough, be walking close enough with him, seeking him every day to really be able to hear him in all of those little things.
Yeah, and there was parts of it where, whenever I was, before we had started dating at that part, my mind was so busy and all of the other just stuff that was just going on just to kind of survive on a day-to-day basis. It was really rough. But one of the things that my mom had been praying over me at that part was basically saying, Lord, speak to him, let him hear your voice, let him get comfortable understanding your voice. And this was still really early in the process. This was when I was going through a lot of the stuff with the courts of heaven, really kind of just figuring out what that was even looking like. It was a new way. I'd never even communicated, in any way. I've never interacted with God in that way before. And one of the things that God had told my mom through prayer was, I'm speaking to him in his dreams, but that sounds like a great thing, but it was followed by, because he's too busy to listen to me throughout the day. It's the only time that he slows down long enough for me to be able to get through to him. And that was something that really kind of made me, it really was a kind of a wake-up call. Honestly, it's not something it's a great thing to hear from God, but it's a bad thing whenever it's saying that I have to choose whenever you are out of the way for me to be able to speak to you. And I think that was, now we make ourselves available for God to speak to us in whatever way that he wants to. And it's a very noticeable thing. We'll look at each other and say, I think that was something that we were supposed to, we'll look at each other and say, yeah, we'll both agree that this was something that was, prophetic. We didn't talk about the orchid being prophetic. We just both understood it was prophetic in that way of it. And it wasn't until a few days later that she mentioned it. And I said, yeah, I agree to it. I felt that way. I felt that way when you showed it to me. And it was just kind of more of a confirmation that God still speaks to us in that way. But we don't have to rely on these loud voices anymore, because we allow God to speak to us anytime he wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the part about, the words you've received in 2023 and the warnings you've received from the Lord. So things that he has told you to put down, things he has told you to stay away from, doors he has closed that he does not want you to reopen. I just want to share that with you, because we just went through something very similar in that, where I had gotten a word. Now, when I say I got a word, I mean I heard the Lord in something or through something, and I knew he was speaking to me, and it was, I've closed a door and I don't want you to reopen it. Well, I knew what he was talking about, and I didn't open that door necessarily again, but I opened a related door, not thinking anything of it. And the thing is, I had to repent, and that whole situation put a very bad taste in my mouth. It wasn't anything detrimental, but it's just showing you guys, I was disobedient in that. And I was telling him before we started this video, like, I should have just taken it as the whole and left the door shut, and instead, everything was okay. But it's like, when God gives you a word and when he speaks to you, it is so important to be obedient. So if it's something good, that's wonderful. Pray into that, stand on that, declare that and decree that over your life every day. But when it's a warning, it is so important to just literally take all of that. Yeah, she got baby food on her face. She just ate. Hi. Well, hello, precious. Say hello. So hi, YouTube. I got my gangster pants going. But it's important to heed the warnings. The doors that God shut and that he says do not reopen them, whether he gave you a warning dream and you walked that out, you listened then, you did all the things, he means it, and he has a purpose for shutting that. So make sure doors he shut, you keep shut, and be obedient to the T, and not just partially like I was. She's finding her voice.
Yes, he's found it.
He says, I love to talk. So I went to my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, it's Delaney's channel. But yeah, so I feel like that was a big thing. You know, always listening to God's voice, whether it's shutting a door or it's opening a new one. Listening to what he says and following it. Obedience is one of the biggest keys to get you from where you're at to where you want to be. Whenever you're obedient in everything, when God will speak to you more, God will open more doors, and he will do the things that you're praying about. And because that's one of the biggest things for him, is just his children being obedient. It's one of the biggest things to any parent, is your child being obedient. It makes everything easier. It makes you want to do more for them. It makes you want to do more with them. It makes you want to impart more to them, because you know they're going to receive it and they're going to walk with it. So
yeah. I think one of the things that I was feeling in this season whenever she was saying that was, don't listen for God, but look for the exceptions. Don't listen to when God says, I want you to shut this, remove it, take this out, or change this way, and then look out and say, well, I understand, I'll do that for you, but this thing over here isn't specifically what you said to get away from.
Right.
It's not specifically, I didn't hear that in the Bible. I didn't see that one thing listed out in the Bible, so that must mean that just because just because God didn't say don't do it doesn't mean it's a good thing. And if it's something that God's telling you to kind of make some of these changes, remove some of these people, add some of these people, or whatever he's calling to do in the early part of this next season here, I would basically just apply that applies to anything and everything that could be related to.
Yeah.
If God says remove this person from your life, you probably should put a little bit of distance between them, between the ones that they're related to. Anything that had a connection to that person previously, probably one of those you need to back away from for a minute. Yeah. If it's something that God's telling you to to change a behavior, to change to work on you with an addiction, or to work on to kind of get rid of these things, don't say, well, I'll give that one up but hold on to these. Right. That's a really kind of a dangerous way of looking at it, and you'll end up getting burnt. It will in one way. It's something that if those are coming, it's a warning from God that you just have to trust that God knows what's going to happen later on down the road better than we do. And if God's saying, I need you to back away from this situation for a moment, and then you continue on it, that's not really the area. It didn't really turn out too well for any of the people in the Bible that did that. So just kind of take that for there.
Right, absolutely. And so I guess the last thing is, so what are your goals for 2024? So that's kind of what we were talking about before this video. What are our goals? Where are we wanting to go? What are we wanting to see happen? How are we wanting God to use us? And, what is your relationship with him going to look like in 2024? So I would love for some people to comment down below and kind of share that with us, because right now we're kind of doing our brainstorming for it as well. But one of the things that we did talk about was, making time for the Lord every day. And for some people that looks different than others. Some people pray all throughout the day. It's just habit. And then some people, you really want to have that time set aside where you can really go into really praying about stuff. Like we got prayer warriors out there, and prayer is just a huge part of your life. But making time for the Lord every day. Are you going to be reading your Bible every day? Do you have kind of a goal or a plan set for that? What are your health goals? What are your financial goals? Your family goals, your relationship goals. And so, yeah, just kind of curious what some of you guys are having planned for 2024. What does that look like for you? So I would love to hear more about that in the comment section. And we're working on getting the same thing together of really where we want to see things go this year, how we want God to use us, and just kind of the impact we want to make on the kingdom of God this year. But you got anything else, Peppers?
Good.
Okay. Well, we love you guys. Happy New Year, and we hope you have a blessed and prosperous 2024.
Awesome.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.